Hello everyone and welcome to AEW Discussion. I'm your host in AEW enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing Dynamite May 31st, 2023 episode. So this episode of Dynamite pretty much was dealing with the fallout from the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. A pay-per-view that was, well, not a hit, but not a miss. It was certainly mid, but nonetheless AEW is basically introducing some new things for TV going forward, and also, well, mentioning Forbidden Door. Nothing has been set for that pay-per-view, but AEW will get started on that build. Pay-per-view is coming up towards the end of June, so there's still some time for AEW to put it together, and it looks like they're already providing some hints as to what is to come. And with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action, starting with the Lucha Bros and Bandito versus the Blackpool Combat Club. So on commentary, Bryan Danielson told the story of Yuta redeeming himself at Double or Nothing, and Yuta would continue with his momentum, picking up the win here for the BCC. Here, a statement win for that faction, one that continues to present them as a dominant force in the company. Yuta, in particular, is on a hot streak of his own, and possibly that will set him up for a high-profile match at Forbidden Door, which is a good thing, as it would allow him to further increase his credibility, perhaps to the level that his teammates have, but at the very least, though, he certainly has the least credibility of all his teammates. That's not to say he has none, but when you think about who he's paired with and their resumes, Yuta certainly has been doing a good job recently building himself up, and I think depending on what he does at Forbidden Door, he could have a chance to cement himself to certainly do some more good things for his career, and do some good things for his resume. So a good action-packed start to the show. And then we have a Bullet Club Gold promo, and basically all that did was kind of set up a tag team match down the line of FTR versus Bullet Club, which should be a good match, and the Exact Sort of Championship counter the tag team titles deserve after months of wasting FTR in a battle of Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. That was a feud that seemed less about the tag titles and more about comedy and friendship drama with Mark Briscoe, which I will admit the friendship drama with Mark Briscoe unnecessary, but nonetheless FTR is not staying stuck in that feud. They are moving on, and they are battling a tag team, and hopefully we can just get back to the tag team classics that FTR are known to put on. As for Jay White, and speaking of, I guess, Bullet Club Glow, Jay White will be competing against Ricky Starks next week. Everybody banned from ringside. I want to say, if this is the thing AEW does, I don't know why they just don't do it more often. And even WWE, just ban everybody from ringside. It would certainly make every match a lot more fun to watch, so we shall see how Ricky Starks versus Jay White plays out. They already pulled the DQ card, so I won't imagine that they do it again. I'd imagine we get a definitive finish, which likely results in Jay White getting a win, which would be a shame because Ricky Starks, I don't think he could really afford a loss at this moment, but if you're setting up Bullet Club Gold versus FTR, then Jay White's got to take the win. Then you have a promo from Don Callis and Kenoshi Takeshita, and Don Callis, well, he's certainly up there with Dominic Mysterio in terms of generating heat, and this promo segment here is how you segue from the Elite's feud with the BCC to something different, with the emphasis now on Callis and the slow burn intro of men who will make up his family. So Callis did seem to indicate that he's building up a new faction starting with Takeshita, but who will join that faction, and when will they wage war or wage battle against Omega and the Bucks, or Omega and the Elite? So that seems likely, but also BCC's, they're still, that storyline ain't over. So I guess while the Elite and BCC are kind of wrapping up their business, that gives Callis time to build up his faction to then take on the Elite afterwards. So nice little bit of long-term storytelling. Perhaps Omega will recruit. I heard this idea thrown out that Omega might recruit Kota Ibushi. I hope I said that right. Maybe that is a thing that happens. I don't really know too much about that, but maybe that is a thing that happens. And how long we have to wait to get to the point where Callis starts to introduce new members of his family, and how strongly that faction is booked will certainly determine the overall success of this starting segment with this promo. And then you have Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin versus Gates of Agony, and this was the second segment of the show to feature Swerve Strickland and his Mogul Embassy faction, suggesting that they might be having a major role in television going forward. Considering how much Dynamite could use a shake-up in terms of who's on TV at the moment, it's a creative decision that is both overdue and should help strengthen the show while highlighting a guy that really should be a focal point. Probably months ago, but at the very least, you have him on your roster. Might as well give him some TV time. And by TV time, I don't mean competing on Rampage. Yeah, but... And I guess with the show splitting up too, and the roster's been split up and everything else too, I mean, certainly does give you a chance. Collision, the debut is coming up pretty soon. CM Punk was announced for the debut episode of Collision, the worst kept secret in professional wrestling. It is now official. Now, will he be competing in the match, or will he be doing a promo segment? That would be the interesting thing right there. I would, if I had to take a guess, I would say it's probably a promo segment. Yeah, just to kind of get him back out there in front of the crowd and then just kind of let him talk. He could certainly talk on the microphone, and maybe you kind of build him up to a match later on in Collision, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how that one goes, but I'm not against it. I'm not against CM Punk returning. Ultimately, you signed him to a long-term contract, so either you release him or you stick with him. And Tony Khan has never been one to fire people, no matter what. So it seems like that, or Tony Khan doesn't really have a history of firing. Tony Khan just doesn't have a history overall of firing people. I think there might have been one guy, Jimmy Havoc, maybe, if I'm recalling correctly, but he had some serious stuff going on in his life. But nonetheless, to CM Punk, what happened with him, it just didn't seem Tony Khan was going to fire him, so it seemed like he was going to come back at some point, and it looks like they found a way to make that work, so we'll just see how that one plays out. So Double Nothing pay-per-view, as I said at the top of this episode, mid-pay-per-view, this is episode of Dynamite solid show that laid the groundwork for AEW television going forward. Mogul Embassy looks like they are going to be a force to be reckoned with, and Swerve Strickland, next week he takes on Orange Cassidy for the AEW International Championship, and Swerve has some credibility as a challenger, and he could be the one to dethrone Orange Cassidy and become the new international champion. The promo segment with Don Callis and Takeshita, great and reflective of the hatred fans now have for them, and that hatred should continue into the near future. Also, Callis is teased with new family bears watching and should prove hugely significant to AEW television overall. Then you throw in Chris Statlander's return. She defended the TBS title successfully against Nyla Rose. Wheeler Yuta set a momentum in the feud between FTR and Bullet Club Gold, and put all that together and you have some intriguing narratives to keep an eye on as the company moves on to one of the most significant summers of its existence, with AEW Collision, Forbidden Door, All In, and CM Punk is going back too. So not a great show, but certainly an above average one, thanks to the introduction of new stories and the conclusion of old ones. And speaking of conclusions of old one, hopefully the story between Chris Jericho and Adam Cole is concluded, because those guys have no chemistry in the ring. And with that, we'll go on and wrap up this episode of AEW Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.